Welcome back, art lovers. Glad to see you again. I've got a 6th spread going on here in my lively, fun art journal book. I like to start off doing mark making with pencil crayons quite often, so that's what I'm going to do this time. I also want to show you how you can make, and actually have to sometimes make, a very messy background before you can reveal something gentle and fun afterwards. So with the work that I do, the abstract style that I do, it's all about layers and taking chances and then revealing things as you wipe back and paint over, and that's the fun and the magic of what I do, and I get a lot of joy out of it. My reason for doing these art journal books is twofold. One is just the pure pleasure and the mindfulness of it. And number two, it's a nice book to have to look back at on my tabletop. And sometimes I get inspired by these little pages and think, okay, that worked out really well. I think I'll do a painting. So anyway, that's the reason. And you'll see that my style, the spreads change quite drastically sometimes, but that's the fun of it. And at any point, if you see something that you like and then you see that I've changed it, that's okay too, because I'm showing you possibilities and options of taking things quite often a step further and showing you what else you can achieve from the same thing. So have patience and watch and see. It's a lot of fun. You'll learn a lot of lessons. In this case, I'm doing modeling paste, sometimes called molding paste. My jar said molding paste, so I'm putting that over top. All I did on this paper is do the pencil crayon marks, and there's no treatment on the paper yet. So this is the first stage. Sometimes I do other ways. And I used a paint spreader, a smaller one, to do the detailed areas. And now I'm using a bigger paint spreader to spread it more evenly, so that when I pull this up, I've got a fairly even coating of that pattern. And before you move forward, and I will use the stencil a few more times, but I'm trying to wipe off each section, spray it with water and wipe it back with paper towel, because number one, it gets coated and stays permanently. As you can see, parts of my stencil have paint and things like that still on it. And the other part is that because I'm going to use this again for the rest of the spread, I don't want this to all be ending up on the palm of my hand as and smudge my work as I'm trying to work. So this is just a good habit. Keep your stencils clean, and they'll be good to you for years to come. And I'm dabbing back any of the thick parts of the paste that just built up at that fold there, because they'll just be in the way. It's way too thick, and it stops the book from folding properly at the center. So there's actually two kinds of molding paste. One, it's very white, and in this case, it's semi-transparent. So as you can see, especially in the close-up there, you can see that some of my mark making from the pencil crayons is still revealed through the white molding paste. And I like that, because you never know later on how that will appear and pop up. And it's just adding another layer to the already many layers that I will be doing. And I think that's a lot of fun. I am an abstract painter, so with abstracts, at least my style, you have to be prepared for lots of surprises. And in my case, quite often I love the surprises, and I start calling them my happy surprises. So the left page, by the way, was dry when I did this, so that my palm didn't get wet and smudge that lovely print that I already did. And now I'm doing another layer of molding paste on the right side of the spread. This stuff is wonderful because it adds an extra layer and depth and dimension to the page, and these are areas where paint can get trapped and flow in and out of the recesses of the pattern, and that's what's so fun about doing modeling paste. Now I'm doing the lower part. I want to cover a good part of the spread with detail, but not all of it. I want some of the original paper to be revealed as well. Now in this case coming up, I did not let the right page dry enough, so I was so busy doing the cleaning of my stencil that I forgot to wait afterwards, and I started excitedly doing the next pattern before that got dry. So because I didn't want to stop recording, I decided to keep going with it anyway. And what I will do is I will put a piece of plastic, a sheet of plastic that I use as a page protector, and I will place that over top of that previously laid down modeling paste so that it doesn't smudge. So right there, I'm going to lightly lay it down. It's not going to necessarily smudge that, but it will change the surface of the modeling paste in that area that I covered, and that's okay too. I don't mind that at all. So I really like to bring out different shapes and sizes of the print, and in this case I've selected that very, as far as it goes on the page, it's the biggest outline area, and I kind of like to shake things up a bit. So you've got smaller little squares and things, trapezoids, and now you've got a bigger semi-oval, kind of a big O, and I like that there's a bit of variety. Now there was something stuck on my paint spreader, and on the left side of that O it left two ridges, but that's okay. It's not perfect, but I like that because that's an area where the paint may pick it up differently. So I want to show you when I covered that with the plastic and then I lifted the plastic off, it kind of took away the smoothness of the surface, but I don't mind that. It's going to provide a very interesting pattern and texture for the paint that I put over top of it coming up. And I'm just scraping away anything. Yeah, so that ridge right there, I don't mind that at all. I think that's kind of fun. And this is a silicone. People use these silicone brushes for making clay products and making grooves and modeling clay, and they work wonderfully. Sometimes as an artist, a lot of us use them, and in this case it was a good way of getting in between the details to scrape away any modeling paste that I didn't want there. So before I move forward, I've got to clean this plate off, the stencil off once again. This is one of my favorite stencils because it's got so many different patterns and shapes on it. And on the right there, you can see the paint spreader still has some modeling paste from before. Make sure you stick that, which I'm doing now, in a jar of water so that that will be released. So I'm just giving everything a good dry. You can see how some of the pencil marks showed through. I just decided on the left in the upper area, I want to bring a little more detail up there to balance the spread. So I've just found, and what I'm doing in the other areas it went vertically, this time I picked a pattern that's more horizontal. And I like the fact that that shape changes things. I'm putting some tape down where I do not want the modeling paste to go through. And it helps to hold it down, but it also just covers some of the gaps so that I don't get modeling paste where I don't want it. I only want the modeling paste in the pattern that I've got there revealed. And so the rest of this spread was dry, by the way. I probably waited quite a while. Probably went and had lunch and came back. So now I'm using the smaller paint spreader to fill in the detailed areas. And I always work from out to in, outwards, inward, so that I don't get too much extra modeling paste outside of the stencil area. And it's okay, even if I do, you'll see that when I lift this off, I will take my finger. Before I lift it off, I will smudge away anything that went over the edge so that I don't have to deal with that later. So this is where I'm going to take my finger before I remove the stencil, and I'm just going to wipe away any modeling paste that I don't want. And I've just flattened everything out. And now I can lift the stencil up. And I have a new horizontal pattern. So that's a better way of covering the whole spread, but making different areas of interest throughout the spread. I like that. So I've got a very... you can see the two more centered patterned areas are a lot bigger shapes, and then these other ones on the side are smaller. So here's that silicone brush working wonders again. It's just great to get into crevices without disturbing the rest of the print. I also use those on my gel plate when I'm doing printing. If you want to roll a color of paint over your gel pad and then use that silicone to draw shapes and lettering or whatever you want, it's a good tool to use because it doesn't scratch your gel plate. Now I'm giving the entire spread, left and right, a good coating of matte medium, and what I'm doing this for is to protect the paper because I want to add a lot of layers of wet very fluid paint, and I don't want it to get absorbed right into the paper. So this gives a good coating over the paper and makes it more like a canvas for painting. And I appreciate you liking and subscribing. It encourages me. I've only been doing this YouTube channel since April, end of April, so I'm happy how it's going so far. It's just going to get better and better. And I do this because I want to pay forward. I've had cancer, I've had sciatica, I've had a lot of issues. And the reason why I decided to name my channel Painting for Your Soul is because, number one, whether you're sick or not, it's good. Any of this kind of artwork is fun play for your soul. And also, if you are sick or recovering from anything, it's a great way of getting distracted. I'm not teaching you how to draw anything. You don't have to have any drawing skills. I'm teaching you to use tools like stencils and things and scribbling and just playing with the flow of paint. So you do not have to be an artist with good abilities to be able to do this work. So I'm trying to encourage people. Plus, you'll notice when you watch my videos, I don't use a lot of supplies. I quite often use white paint, thick white paint, and then a lot of high flow acrylics, and then molding paste and stencils. And that's, I keep it to simple. Sometimes I pull out different tricks and tools, and that's okay too. I gave that a good dry, and that matte medium dries transparent. So all of those marks from the pencil crayons are still being revealed as they were. But the whole 2-page spread is dry now, so I'm going to start doing some coloring. I have a tube that I previously mixed my high flow transparent blue paint with some white to make it a lighter blue and to make it semi-opaque. And when I take it with a cloth and spread it around like that, this is actually called glazing. And it's just giving us a semi-transparent. When I drop it down on the page, it's quite opaque, but as soon as I spread it around, you can see, especially on the left there where I already put it down, you can see how it still reveals what's below. So it becomes semi-transparent, and I call this glazing. And I'm just starting with light colors at first and rubbing that around. The book is getting quite thick in the fold, center fold there, so it's hard to get the color in there. You have to really rub it in. I love doing spreads with modeling paste because with all the textures and the grooves and the channels and the high peaks of the modeling paste, it's really fun to watch how paint reacts to that. Because if it's really, really high and thick, the modeling paste, then it's hard. When you push this down, the color goes into the grooves, but not on the surface. So then you get some of the surface of the print staying white because that's the peaks of the molding paste. But this is the fun of it. I really enjoy working with molding paste. I'm just putting a layer of spray water and then dabbing ever so gently. First of all, I'm getting water out of the crevice there, but I'm just patting it down gently. I do not want to lift all the paint off. I'm only trying to get the extra moisture onto the paper towel from the water. I'm liking how this is already starting. It's very, we're getting layers of texture. It almost looks like pearl, and that's giving me an idea that perhaps I want to go in the direction of pearl. But the technique I use is to use stronger colors underneath, and then I can always do a glaze over top to reduce the boldness and the loudness of the colors. So that's what you'll see me doing. I might not use all these colors. I am going to use these 2 golds. And these are like tubes of lipstick. If you haven't already used them, the colors, the pigment inside the tube, it's very similar texture to a lipstick. So if you press too hard, you get too much of it rubbing off, and I did tend to press these too hard over top of the molding paste, but that's okay. When you use your finger to smudge it, it spreads the color around, and it also reveals the true color of that paint. It's only showing up really dark where I pressed too hard and it got stuck inside the crevices and ridges of the molding paste. So it's not exactly what I was looking for, but I can fix that later. So I'm just dabbing hints of this brighter gold around, and then I will use this slightly darker, and it goes on dark like that, but you'll see when I rub it that it reveals a much brighter color once I spread it around. So these colors look wonderful with the blue. Not sure where I'm heading with this, but I'm just at this point just playing. If I don't like anything, because I've put a coating of matte medium down on the spread, if I don't like any of this, I can easily spray water on it and wipe it all back. Now you have to be bold and do these layers so that when you do reveal things later on, remnants of these colors show up. And if you didn't put them down first, they wouldn't be there to show up later on. So I never do a painting where I just do 2 or 3 colors. That's how it looks and I'm done. It's a process of sometimes 8, 10, 12 layers, and little bits of each layer get revealed while the rest gets wiped away, and that's just my process. I like having these surprises. Now I am spraying rubbing alcohol directly onto the page, and then my goal was to wipe some of that back, but in doing so, it altered the texture of the matte medium that was over top of the paper. So it made too much of a dissolving of that medium, and it went right through to the paper level. So it's going to, anything I put on that page is going to act differently in that circled section that I showed you. You can see I could have just done the water, sprayed water like I did the second time, and I only dabbed it gently there because I have kind of revealed the paper surface. But if you spray water, it really reacted quickly, instantly, and all of this. So I'm trying to show you here how if you don't like something, you can spray and wipe it all back. If I wanted to, I could wipe every bit of that back, but I want to reveal a little. But now that I've ruined the surface of the paper on the left there, I've decided I'll put some more blue and try and make it blend with the rest of the spread. A lot of the things I do, they're one of a kinds, and each time I learn. I mean, there are so many possibilities. I do like how I pressed hard and that blue stuck to the ridges of the molding paste. That's quite fun. In some cases I want to leave it there, and in other cases I don't. So I'm just showing you on here how you can play with those crayons and then change your mind if you like. None of these are mistakes. Part of this I'm doing on purpose to show you how to use these crayons. I will end up not using that as the background. I will end up putting more molding, matte medium down to protect that paper. But for now I'm showing you just the different options you have. I do want to use the green out of those tubes. Again, it goes on very thick like a lipstick, and then I will rub it around. This blue and green is one of my favorite combos. I really enjoy it. So in adding some green over there and smudging it around, it takes the eye away from what happened to the paper surface on the left, and I don't mind that at all. I'm using another color. And again, if I don't like them, I can spray water on there and wipe it all back. You have to play around a little bit with these gelatos to get the hang of it, but they're a lot of fun. But they're not permanent, so believe me, water, they react to water instantly. Just playing around with what darker colors do when you rub it up against the crevices and the height of those molding paste shapes. I was looking for the brighter of the two of these so that I could do a little bit more. Again, this looks ugly. It looks really strange, but stay with me. It gets better. Oh, see how the water disperses it immediately and releases the color? And you could actually do that and then use a brush like this, and now what you've got is it's paint on the page. It's no longer looking like a crayon. It's a supply of paint. If you can afford it, it's really fun to get a set of Stabilos. Not Stabilos, sorry. I use Stabilo Woodies as well. But if you can afford it, it'd be nice to get a set of gelatos because there are so many things you can do with them. So as you can see, most of this is getting rubbed off. I'm trying to show you two things. One, that you can put it all down and take away most of it and leave little bits. Or number two, I'm showing you that you can try something. If you don't like it, you can rub it all back. Now, if I would not have put matte medium all over these 2 pages, I wouldn't have been able to do that. That would have already absorbed into the paper. So this looks like an ugly mess, but it won't stay this way. So hang in there. I took too much of it away that time, so I'm just adding a little bit more. I could have done this technique with just using different colors of paint and achieved something similar, but not quite the two-tone depths of each color like the gelatos have. But again, I do try to show you techniques in these videos, and so that you can learn the process. I love that green. It's so fun. So you can see that every time I put down and rub away and then put down and rub away, I'm leaving little remnants in different places. And it ends up being very interesting textures and patterns in the long run. Again, this is just underpainting stage. Keep a lot of paper towels on the side. Oh, that's looking a little bit muddy, so I'm going to have, the harder I press, the more I release some of that color. I just didn't like that. I'm going to use this blue, which ends up being almost identical to the blue paint that I had. Again, I'm having fun. I'm pressing hard because I purposely want, along this middle part, I want that pattern to really show up. And look at how it accents and reveals that molding paste pattern once you do that. So back and forth, just trying different things. This is a safer way of actually playing around with color combinations and things, because if I would have used real paint, it would have been a little harder to do this. But these gelatos release and wipe off so easily that it's a perfect time to play and explore. I could have brought out any other color. The sky's the limit to where this could have gone. The point is, you need to start off with bold, because later on it'll become gentler. I decided as I was working on this that I was inspired by, if you look at a pearl up close, you can see that it's basically overall a glaze of white or cream, but you always see an iridescent hint of colors behind it when you look at a pearl, or the inside pearl pattern of a shell. You know how you get some of those big open flat shells that have a pearl look inside? That's sort of what inspires me right now as I started working on this. So again, I put a lot of different patterns in and took it back, put more down, took it back, and now it's changing and it's becoming a lot more subtle, and you get remnants of these colors, hits and misses of these colors in areas. But as you can see now, it's starting to look almost like a pearled effect. I'm giving this a really good blow dry. I'm not worried about that bright green on the left because I'll deal with that. But I'm already enjoying where this is headed. Now, because I know where I can take this, I'm not worried about how everything is. Look at the different, how the blues pick up the green. They go in a very smudgy, shady kind of way, and that's hard to paint on. You can only get that by putting your paint down and then smudging away. I'm going to use a formula of 2/3 matte medium there in the dish and 1/3 on the brush there of full out white paint, and I'm just really smudging it around so that I mix that white pure paint with the matte medium. And the goal is, and I'm getting more of that paint off the brush, smudging it, giving a good rub, and I'm making a semi-transparent glaze over top of white. This is how I'm going to start getting, this is how I'm getting my pearled effect. And if I wouldn't have put bold colors underneath, when I put this glaze over top, there'd be no hint of the shine underneath. So again, I'm trying to go for that iridescent look. And I'm already quite happy with it. And I'm bringing all the colors down with this white so they have similar values, so that even though there's more of the green on the left there, it's spread out. It's not brighter than the green on the right. So the values on the entire spread are very similar with all the colors. But I do love, and I hope you can see now, how this has got that pearl effect. So yes, when I put the other colors down and had the gold there, specks of it, it just helps to shift and alter slightly each of those colors. So the gold did affect the tints of the other colors. Now if I spray water all around, and I did spray on the left as well, it's just that the light shone and gave a reflection on the right side. What I did was I sprayed the whole spread with water, and I'm only dabbing a little bit of the liquid back. I did not want to touch and lift any of the paint off. So I'm going to let this get really, really dry. And I think I left that a day. This is the next day. And I've got my transparent, high flow acrylic transparent blue with a soft brush directly out of the bottle. So I know this looks pretty dark, but if you put the darker straight out of the bottle down like that, that is going to flow over the ridges of that molding paste print, and it's going to find those crevices, and that's where this darker blue is going to go, is inside the crevices of all of these patterns. And when I spray water, I'm spreading it around, and it's removing the paint from the top surface of the pattern, but it's leaving the darker colors inside those grooves and crevices. So they help to reveal, in a very fun 3D pattern, the textured print. And I love spraying water and letting it just flow. I don't want to contrive it. I want to see how it flows throughout all these crevices. That's the magic of this. And I want to even enhance that even more. So I put another layer of blue there. And then when I'm just getting rid of any of them that pools up into the center there, because it ruins the center of the book otherwise. So I don't want to disturb too much of that flow. I'm just getting the edges that want to go to the edge of the paper. And then just very gentle dabs. So you can see now how a lot of that blue has settled into the paper, and the modeling paste patterns are sticking up like little mountains. And the more you spray and the more liquid, the more that goes down into the grooves, and the surface of the pattern stays a little whiter. Do this on practice papers even if you want, because it's, oh, there's a really good example how the darker parts stay, and then it gets lighter and whiter on the top surface of that pattern. Isn't that fun? I know I'm babbling a bit. It's hard to explain this, but until you try it, you don't understand. So the brighter areas, the whiter areas are the topmost points of the molding paste, and then the brighter colors are down in the page level. So that's a lot of fun. It's a really great way of revealing the patterns. And I don't even mind how that green blends with the blue. It becomes a slightly different green. And again, I'm not going to leave this all this strong. Some of that's going to get wiped away as well, or washed away. I'm having a lot of fun watching it just flow where it wants to within those crevices. And I keep dabbing with the straight edge of the paper towel, the fold of the page, so that it doesn't bleed that paint into the pages underneath. Now I'm doing a magenta, And I'm going to add a lot of water to it so it's not too strong, because that color right out of the bottle is very dark. It's still going to go on dark, but that's a beautiful color. And I love this. It's a really wonderful complement for this blue and green. If you have a color wheel and you look and you see the 3 complementary colors, this is the 3rd color. Now it's very wet. A lot of that I'm not putting over modeling paste. It's mostly just over paper. But it's fun how it's flowing and moving and changing the color of the page that was underneath, the blue underneath. So I'm really liking what's happening there, and it looks very pearl-like. Really, really like that. It's going to dry a little lighter, and because the corner of the page is curling upward, I'm going to have to put a clip there to keep it down. But I do love how smudgy and pearl this area looks. It's just wonderful. And where it does go down and meet the modeling paste pattern, it goes into the crevices of that pattern. This is fun. So this is a case. I love that. I love how smudgy that is. And it's reacting to the blue, it's reacting to the green, and it's creating new colors. The only thing I need to do is keep dabbing that center fold. That's fun. Very cloudy. That's when it's straight out of the bottle. That's really bright. But again, I start off dark and bright and I tone it down later. Now I'm dabbing away, and I want to get, if you see the paper towel has a pattern on it, like an imprint, and when I press down firmly over that, it lifts the paint where those patterns are, and it reveals a pattern underneath on the paper. It's a lot of fun. Look at how that pink changes the blue into a darker purple. So again, I'm just having fun with the flow of paint. And as it flows, it melds with other colors and becomes a new shade. So this page is very, very wet. Thank goodness I've got a good coating of matte medium there. Otherwise, the page would start, if this was just over paper, it wouldn't flow like that. It would sort of get absorbed into the paper. I'm just adding a little more because this is not, it's a more shallow pattern, and it's harder to get some of the color to settle into the recesses of the page. So I just had to help it along with a darker color. I don't even mind where the magenta hits the green. It becomes sort of an olive. And it doesn't matter if they blend and become another color. They're all complementary because they're from the same 3 colors. Very wet up top there. So you can see there, I want to go for the texture of that paper towel right there. I'm going to press down firmly, and when I lift it off, you can see the pattern of the paper towel. And that doesn't work if you don't put a strong color underneath. So I like that. I like it a lot. And you'll see I do this often in my abstracts. But because too much got lifted off, I'm going to show you this again. Got to start off with strong and put that pattern down with a fresh clean piece and press down. And it will lift off in a pattern. See? Isn't that fun? You wouldn't be able to paint that. That'd be almost impossible to paint. Now, as it starts to dry and spread, you can see that those patterns disperse a little bit, but that's okay. Again, in that center crease, even though there's a bit of matte medium down there, it can still seep into the pages behind that are white and ruin your white pages for your next spread. So I'm just letting it flow, and I was trying to get a little bit more pattern lifted off there. And I'm going to let this dry a bit. While that's drying on the right, I'm adding more on the left, and I knew that that would change the blue into purple, and I want to show you how you can take these high flow acrylic colors and use them to create, I usually use about the same 5 colors, and you can create anything you want with just a few colors. I'm going to let this dry, even though that looks strong. You can see that it dried really a lot lighter, And on the bottom left there, that dark purple, that reddish color, that can easily be lifted off with water and rubbing it off and reveal more white of those rectangles. So what I want to do is spread some of the blue from the left over to the right, just to give balance of colors. I've got green on the left and right. I've got pink on the left and right. Now I want to get blue on the left and right. And I don't mind how it blends a little bit with the previous colors. Again, this is quite strong. It won't end up, the whole effect won't end up this strong, but I have to let it dry strong, and then you'll see where we go from there. I'm really enjoying the top half of that page, how it's just getting all cloudy and pearl-like, iridescent. And I'm allowing some of that paint to flow to see what that does as it blends with new colors. It's fun to see. These art journal books for me are all about exploring. So those areas that I circled, I find are really fun with texture, with background. And now that it's all dry, I want to show you how it all shows up. I thought I'd start off with rubbing alcohol with a Q-tip this time. And I'm using the Q-tip to just float over the surface of the ridges of that molding paste. And what I'm doing is lifting off some of the color. You could do this if this was on a canvas or a wood panel. You could take sandpaper and scrape it off and it would be the same effect. But because this is fragile paper, I don't want to use sandpaper. And as I use the flat part of the Q-tip and rub it around, you can see it's almost acting like a sandpaper. I'm not touching the innermost grooves of it. I'm only floating over the surface. But a better way of doing that when I've got a bigger panel is to put rubbing alcohol on paper towel and then rub with the flat part of my fingers so that I'm not rubbing in the grooves of the page, and where the grooves, the lower parts of the paste are, I'm only rubbing over the surface of the molding paste pattern. I know I'm repeating myself, but that's just so that in my babbling you can understand what I'm trying to portray. So I have to rub a lot firmer on these bigger areas, and you can see it's lifting off in a nice smudgy way. I don't want to lift the color completely off the surface of that O and those squares. I want to just make it marbly. And that's turning into some fun. Now we're getting somewhere. This is already getting well on its way to the effect that I wanted. And again, getting these smudges and the way that the hues of the colors are shifting, you can't get that by painting. You have to do it by this technique. So now I'm pressing quite firmly, and I want, really, really firmly actually, because I want to bring back, because there's so much color on the page now, I want to bring back the white of the molding paste if I can, and not completely. I still like the effect of having a bit of color there in the grooves of it, but I wanted to lift a lot of that off to show more white. So my colors for this spread are blue, green, magenta, and now this purple, and the fourth color is white. And I'm not painting white. Oh, now look at the bottom half, the bottom edge of that left spread. Look at how fun that is. Oh my goodness, I love the texture and the mottled, speckled effect of the purple meets blue meets green meets white. I think that's a blast. I love it. And yet the opposite of it, the top right of the spread, same colors, but more milky and shady and dreamy-like. I like the juxtaposition of the textures. That's fun. I really, really like that. Oh, so much fun. I love that right there. That's amazing. And again, you can't, those are all flecks and specks of all the different previous colors that were there that are being revealed now. So I hope you can see why I do this technique. And I decided I want even more white up there, so I'm just using rubbing alcohol this time, and only rubbing mostly where the modeling paste is, not where the paper is. That's so fun. This is really turning into something really bold and fun. And again, you can't paint that. How would you even think of sitting down and painting something like this? It's just something that happens and is revealed. I'm really pleased with this. And I'm bringing down the depth of the color. It's not quite as loud as it was. More rubbing alcohol and hard pressure. I wanted to reveal a little more white there on the right, and a little bit more on the O. I'm trying to balance the white around the page now. So fun. It's really turned interesting. You know, when I look at this, when I look at this each time, I could probably get lost with my imagination in so many different directions. Each time I look at this, I might feel differently about it. I think it's so fun and playful. Again, you could do the same technique with soft colors like beige, brown, rust, and get a whole different gentle effect. It's a matter of the colors you use. Now I want to use some semi-transparent high flow acrylic white, and I'm going to dab it right over top of areas. I thought I'd start off though with a small brush and reveal. This is where I get lost in mindfulness at this stage, which is 3/4 done, where sometimes I take white and I want to just paint out the shapes that are there. But you will see soon that I'm trying this, but I thought, no, you know what? I prefer to just use the white as a glaze. But I did start off doing this, and it just shows you this is something you could do all over the page with all the shapes that stick up, if you like. But I decided, no, let's just use it as a glaze and smudge it over top. I'm trying to go for, again, the pearl effect, which is using the white glaze over top. But I don't want the pearl effect everywhere. I like how things change and morph throughout the spread. I don't like the same thing in every quadrant. So I thought that was fun, and because it is semi-transparent, it will dry even a little more clear, and so I'm still revealing colors from below, even though I'm making it more milky. And I'm using, because that paper towel was already wet with the paint, I'm using it now as a staining rag, and I'm just swabbing it around. I've got white on the black border of the book there, but later on I could paint that black. So now let's do a little more on the top, and you can see how that's altered a little bit, the shape and pattern from the paste. I hope you like this. I'm thrilled with it. And at any point, you know, I've had people make comments saying, oh, I would stop at such and such and leave it as it is. And that's great, because at any point, some of these areas, if that tickles your fancy and you like it how it was, that's when you stop. I always like to go a step further to show you other options. I want to bring down the depth of that purple just a little bit, because the value of that purple is a little too dark and bold compared to the rest of the spread. So I'm turning it more into a mauve. So you can see I'm balancing the values of the colors. Now in this case, I am going to purposely paint in only the top surface of these ovals, because I want to bring them forward. This is where I play with depths. If you've watched my videos, you know I like to play with depth and layers. And I like to have things go into the background, pop forward, and this is a way of having that white print pop forward big time, and the rest of the spread gets thrown into the background. It's a bit of an optical illusion, but it's not totally optical illusion because those shapes are uppermost on the page because of the relief. But I'm just trying to sort of draw, because the whole 2-page spread is quite busy, I'm trying to bring forward a focal point. And the focal point is wherever I'm painting the white from these patterns. That's the first thing that pops forward. But I don't want to do this O completely in white. I want it to change from white at the top and then morph into the green that it was below. So I'm just adding a hint of it, shading a little bit like a highlight. And a little bit on the left. Just because that oval, that O is the biggest print on the entire page, so I want to showcase it a little bit. Oh, this is really going in the direction I wanted. I'm happy. I'm as happy as can be with this. This is the stage where I just get lost. Everything's down on the page already. All I'm doing now is intuitively deciding where to reveal and where to hide different areas. Oh, just look at the patterns where I'm showing you how the green morphs to, you know, the highlights change and move in directions. I like that. I like that so much. Look at this part. These are all the close-ups now of all the little areas. Look at that. You couldn't have painted that. That has to be revealed. Had a lot of fun with this one. I must have taken apart the clip that showed me putting my initial on there, but that's okay. There it is. I hope you enjoyed this. I'm trying to decide what else. Is it done or is it not? This is bone dry at this point, and I'm just thinking, do I want to change anything else with it? No, I'm going to leave it as it is, and I hope you had fun. I hope you try it, and I hope to see you again. Each time I do new colors and new things. So have a great day, and I'll see you next time.